about is salaries. I think all of us, it's been a while since well, 6 or 7 years since I've been involved in setting teacher salaries at a district. Richardson paid reasonably well for a Texas school district. We competed with the other districts in the Metroplex, and our starting salary was really pretty competitive. In fact, having now had 3 sons that began work in other places, in other kinds of businesses, I can tell you that the starting pay was competitive with what they saw in different lines of work. But obviously where teachers fall back in terms of their peers in other industries is years go by, and the dollars don't change much. And I don't know that we have a solution to that, but one of the things that we did talk about is that the minimum salary schedule is currently designed with a $27,000 starting pay is woefully inadequate. There's not a lot of districts that use that, I think 30 or so that are at the minimum. But we felt like we needed to send a message that that was insupportable if we want to really attract the kind of people we want to attract in a broad sense. Now, I don't know how many districts are between that and the 41,000 we're recommending as a minimum, but there's a lot, because the 41,000, there's no magic to it. It was basically the average, what the average starting pay is, I think. There are some districts, Richardson's now in the high 40s, I think, and there's a lot of others that maybe even higher than that. But we felt like that would make a significant difference, and that would also be a significant cost for the state. Mike suggested the formula. Some of this be formula driven, and you can see that in the report as well. So what we did not do is continue to use the salary system, the schedule. I think a lot of districts would continue doing that because that's what they're used to doing. But what we'd really like to see is more innovation and more thought about how you design pay systems in districts. Some districts are doing that already. We need to attract bright young people to the profession. We need to keep the really good teachers we have in the system, and so that they're making a living wage. There's a wide array of things we talked about doing, from differentiating pay based on assignment, the school needs, so that you can attract people into the kinds of schools Katie talked about, where we tend to put the youngest and least experienced teacher with the kids that need the best and the brightest. We talked about just a wide array of things that districts could think about in terms of innovating and being creative about salaries. But the one thing we did feel like is we needed to bump that minimum up significantly, and I'm not sure what the total cost of that is. I'm sure somebody can figure it out. But it's just, in my view, shameful that we have 30 districts that are using that as, and I know they would say that's all the money they have, that they're poor, and so that's why the state needs to get the funding to a point where districts can in fact afford to pay these folks a living wage, and we can get more and better effective teachers. So that pretty well sums up what I think John wanted me to do, and with that I'll turn it over to Rick. Or you want to? And I'll be happy at the end to answer questions. Would we do that? Wouldn't you rather do that, or how do you want to?
Can we have Richard go?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because some people may have joint questions. Okay, all right.
So the next speaker is President Richard Rhodes, who is currently president about a year and a half into president of Austin Community College. Before that, he spent 10 years as president of Austin Community College. Before that, had senior positions in Utah, New Mexico, and Texas. Now, what you might not know about Richard is that he is a CPA. And so he came into his community college leadership out of a financial.
Couldn't hold real.
But when we were looking for someone to look at a big tent in higher education and community college and work with businesses and community college leaders and philanthropy, the governor's office, the legislature, and the coordinating board, we knew Richard Rhodes had the experience, had the ability to build coalitions, and he is a great listener. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Richard Rhodes. Thank you.
How can you beat having a lawyer and a CPA in one afternoon? Mark talked about, is Mark here? there's Mark. Mark talked about his Christmas vacation and his trip. And, you know, we're good friends and we trade stories about our families and stuff. And, you know, as John was saying, I made the move from El Paso, Texas to Austin, Texas. And so we had our first Christmas in Austin, Texas this year. And for the last 10 years, we have always invited our family to come and visit us for Christmas in El Paso. And for 10 years, there was excuse after excuse. So we moved to Austin, we invite the family, and 20 different family members in our house. And, you know, and so we've got a lot of young kids that are there, my nephews and our grandkids and stuff. And so they're really they are into technology, and I've got one nephew who is autistic, and he is into technology like you would not believe. And so the whole time that they were there, then constantly it was, Uncle Richard, can I change this? Can I change it? Can I have your iPad? Can I have your laptop? Can I do this on your desktop? You know, can I change? We just made a change from Time Warner to AT&T because I had to have the Longhorn Sports Network. I got tired of listening to Time Warner say, it's coming. So we made the change. So you got the router, you know, you've got 11 different technology interfaces that are possible in our house. And every one of them got changed. Either by my grandkids or my nephews. So when they finally left, my wife came to me and she said, do you know how to make the Wii work? I used to. I don't anymore. And then, but the telling thing was when my brother-in-law, on my wife's side of the family, brother-in-law and his wife and their 2 kids were getting ready to leave. And the wife comes up and she says, Richard, do you have a map of Texas? And I said, well, you've got an iPhone, right? And she said, yes. And I said, well, you want a hard map? And she said, yes. I said, well, why? You've got your iPhone. And she said, well, on our trip down here, Peter, her husband, Peter asked Siri the best route, and I didn't like her answer. I said, that's right, you're a rookie. I want to talk to you about a journey that we're taking here in Texas, and it's transformative. It was really started, and it has to do with how do we change policy. When we look at student success, and if we're serious about student success, then we have to think about what are the policy barriers for students to progress. That's one piece of it. And the policy barriers can be at federal levels, state levels, institutional levels, or interinstitutional levels. And so we needed to come together and begin to really take a look at what do we need to change at a state level to make a policy environment in Texas that allows students to be successful in achieving their dreams. And so we started this. It started with an investment from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in completion by design. So Texas was one of the states that received money for completion by design. A part of completion by design meant that we had to put together a statewide steering committee. And the statewide steering committee would begin to address policy issues and look at the outcomes of the planning year and begin to address policy issues. And this is what has happened with it. We now have on the Texas Student Success Council, and that's how it was started. It was started just over a year ago. And we have quarterly meetings. We have 27 people on the council that are members of the council. And those 27 members, you've got a handout in your folder, and you actually have a list of the names on that handout of who's involved and what the goals are and what the objectives are. But let me just tell you what's happened during our quarterly meetings during this past year. Is we began to, one of the things that Amy said in the other session was the importance of using data. So we've been using data from the 5 Catholic colleges that are a part of completion by design, starting through them. using that data as well as data that has come out of Achieving the Dream and other initiatives. Because we counted them up, Educate Texas counted up the numbers of initiatives that are ongoing, either state, federal, foundation initiatives that are going on concerning student success in the state of Texas. And there's somewhere between, depending on when you count, between 20 and 30 different initiatives on student success. So we knew that we needed something to kind of bring these together. Because whether it's on developmental education or transfer articulation, completion, whatever it is, adult basic education, testing, placement, all of these need to come together. And we need kind of an umbrella. And that's what we started to work on, is that umbrella. So we said, who needs to be at the table? We know we need to have the cadre colleges. Presidents of the cadre colleges are at the table. We need more than that. We need representation from the university sector, so we brought that in. We need representation from K-12, we brought that in. We need representation from business. We've got TAB at the table. Workforce, we've got Andreas Alcantar from the Texas Workforce Commission. I don't think Andreas is in here. He was here earlier. We've got the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. We've got representatives or themselves from the chair of the House Higher Education Committee, the Senate Higher Education Committee, the former chair of the Senate Higher Education Committee at the table. So we wanted to we've got 3 different foundation CEOs at the table: Greater Texas Foundation, Meadows Foundation, and Houston Endowment. And a couple of those, I know 3 of them are here at this meeting, all 3. So we wanted to get all of the voices together and get the input so that we had this lively dialogue and conversation, with the end result of coming together and saying, what are we going to recommend to the legislature when they convene? What are we coming together as a group, arm in arm, hand in hand? Together we're going to advocate for some change in policy, for better pathways for students. And that's what we did. Every meeting that we had the student voice there also. And so we would have a student panel come forward and they would talk about their experience or their lack of experience in different venues, whether it was in transfer or in developmental education. We had the student voice, honest, open dialogue. And then everybody at the table had the opportunity to question and ask those tough questions of students. Why couldn't you do that? Why weren't you successful in this? Or what helped you be successful in this? And walk through that. Richard Moore is also there from representing the faculty from community colleges. So TCCTA is there. Also, we decided that we're going to focus this year on a couple of areas. And those 2 areas are, one, transfer and articulation, and the other is a hot topic across the country, and that is, should we be funding our community colleges, our higher education institutions, should we be funding them based on performance? And so we came together